Hello everyone, this is a hopefully quick video to try and teach some people how to register to judge the A&S fairs now that we're entering the A&S spring fair season. Last spring I judged for the first time as a real judge and not a shadow, and I can remember at Kingdom I heard at least 3 people comment, oh, I would have judged if I just knew how. And they weren't saying, oh, if I knew how to judge a piece, it was more they didn't know how to register and how to sign up. It's incredibly important that the fair system has enough judges. The fairs can't really go smoothly without them. It can't really happen at all without enough judges. And in the past year or two, I've seen this happen where they kind of pull out calls saying, no, we really need more judges. Judging is not difficult. It can be incredibly fun. It can be incredibly rewarding and very, very educational. I think a lot of people are afraid of the process for a few different reasons, and clearing up some misgivings might help with that. So before I get into the real quick 30 seconds how you're going to register, I want to talk about the why, the where, the who. So there's a lot of staff that are required to do the spring fairs. If you have helped in the past in the counting rooms, or if you've been an MOAS, you probably already know that. But if not, it takes a ton of people, and they travel the fair circuit in the spring, and while they're tallying and trying to make Xeroxes of sheets and do all the paperwork and the logistics, they usually can't judge. So right there, you've got a lot of really dedicated A&S type people who are ruled out. So the rest of us have to step up and judge. A lot of people think that they are disqualified because, well, I'm not a Laurel. Well, I'm not an Evergreen. Well, I don't have any Arts and Science Award at all. Does not matter. There are no specific requirements like that to be a judge. It's not that you have to be a Laurel. You don't have to necessarily be an expert in the field. It's a lot easier if you do have some experience with the categories you're going to judge. But you get to pick the categories that you judge. Now, maybe in an absolute emergency, they might come and say, look, we know that you're just a sensible person. You've got your head on your shoulders. Well, we'd like you to go ahead and step in and judge this category. But for the most part, when you sign up to judge, you specify the categories that you're going to, or that you are comfortable judging. Where? Well, at any of the fairs that you can attend. You are not limited to the fairs in your home state, in your home region. If you happen to find yourself, maybe you live in Constellation and you're going to be at Pentamere, you can judge Pentamere if they need you. Go ahead and register and say, hey, I'm going to be at that event. The who? You. If you were watching this video, you were probably interested. That means you. Go ahead and register. Again, you do not have to have a specific award. You don't have to only register in categories in which you have received an award or in which you have competed in the past. None of that is really a requirement. It's all a great thing. Everybody would love it if they had a team of Laurels in their field to come and judge their entry. That's just not reality. There are certain fields that don't have 3 Laurels, in this kingdom. And if so, they couldn't all be in the same spot. So definitely go for it. One big thing that has really helped this is saying recent years is a little misleading, but we now do face-to-face judging, unless somebody is really adamant they don't want that. What that means is you're sitting there, you've got a copy of the criteria, you've got their documentation, and you've actually got the artist themselves. You can sit there and say, whoa, how did they do this in period? I'm not really clear from your documentation how this specific technique worked. And you can actually ask them and have a very pleasant conversation about it and get those extra details. And the information that they give you, the things that they say, count. That is part of their documentation. You get to include it even though it wasn't written. So if you're not sure about it and you're saying, man, I really like a good brew, but I've never made a beer myself and I'm worried about this, you can sit there and ask them, walk me through this. You know what? I'm not really clear. You mentioned pitching yeast and I don't know what that means. Help me out. And they can guide you through that and they can clarify the process or the terminology. That right there makes it so much easier if you have any anxiety. The fairs will also, I believe, always accept shadow judges. I've done that myself. The very first time I judged was a shadow judge. And that means that you will be an additional judge. You'll fill out the sheet, but your score will actually not apply to the person. They will still get your feedback sheet. They will see your commentary. They will see your scores, but it's not factored into the mathematics for them for the ranking, for the placements, and for carrying on to kingdom and so forth. So it's a really good way to learn as a judge. It's a good way to get that training. It's great extra feedback for the artist, but you don't have that pressure of going, man, if I judge too easily or too harshly, it's really gonna, it could hurt somebody. No pressure like that. So with kind of the sales pitch portion done, here we have the Midrealm website, midrealm.org. I've just gotten home from the Festival of Maidens, as you can see the date there. To get to the page, you're going to click KMOAS. Now, there's only a pop-down for Rum, but if you actually click KMOAS, and you've got right here, Arts and Sciences, Fair Entrant, Judge Registration, and Judging Criteria. If you're doing anything related to the fairs, this is pretty much the link you need. Or you can just bookmark ans.midrealm.org/fair, user index. Now, I'm going to presume that you have never judged before. You may not be in the system at all. And I'm going to go ahead and register an actual Scadian who does not do anything with the fairs, a member of my mundane household. So if you don't have a username and password, you just enter your name. And I'm going with my mother, Lady Herleaf. You don't have a password, so you just click Log In. Now the system says, oh, we don't know who you are. Please give us your basic contact information. And I'm creating a fake account that I will have them purge later. I don't even live in Chicago. She doesn't live in Chicago. So you will give it all of your contact information and hit save. Very easy. So now you are signed in. It greets you at the top. It's very pleasant. We're going to go ahead and register Lady Herleaf as a judge here in Constellation. Now, this is where you set where you're comfortable judging. You go through each of the divisions and you just check the boxes. Now, keeping with the theme of Herleaf, she definitely cooks. She doesn't mind an occasional beer. She is fascinated by calligraphy. Doesn't really do anything technological. Doesn't really sew, do anything like that. Oh, you know what? She has been known to do some needlework, so I'll put that. Doesn't really perform. So we've checked the categories that the person wants to judge, that you want to judge. You hit Save Preferences. Done. Look how easy that was. You shouldn't have to change your categories, I think, for each. We'll go ahead and Pentamere. I guess you can. You could go ahead and update them. It has gone ahead and pulled the categories from before. Save Preferences. Now I'm going to go ahead and, of course, and hit remove because I don't want a fictional person or rather somebody who's not involved with the A&S system showing up for this. But that's that. That is all that it takes to register to be a judge. If you're not going to go, of course, you find out a week or two before the event you're not going to be there, please remove yourself from judging. In the back end, it will show these are all the judges who are there. They will assign entrance to the judges and have that ready before that morning. So, please give them as much notice as possible. But that right there is the entire process to register to judge. It is not difficult. It is absolutely painless. It is incredibly fun as well, and that's what I think a lot of people are so worried about harming somebody, upsetting somebody, being that infamous judge that people talk about for years. It's really a lot easier than that. And to go ahead and follow up with how it's done, we judge 2 criteria in the Midrealm. So you've registered to judge. You will be, I believe, told ahead of time, here's your categories. You can come over here and you can hit criteria. And by clicking the name, you can find the criteria for any of these categories. I've actually already got calligraphy pulled up, but just to show, click calligraphy. It tells you everything you need to know about the points, defines primary sources and secondary sources. So you just sit here, and when you're judging the actual entrant at the fair, or the entry, not the entrant so much, you sit there and read this, and it tells you, okay, creativity, standard style with no innovations, 0 points. And it works you through each point. You can just read the criteria and you just assign it. It's not really an art. It's not really anything too arcane here. When you are entering, you have access to these criteria. You should be able to judge yourself and get a pretty good idea of where your piece is. If you know that you have used a completely modern pen, you're probably going to get dinged a point. You can come through the categories, figure this out, read through the criteria, and really the whole process is fairly transparent to both sides. But you can come read the criteria before you even check the box and say you're comfortable with the category. And when you do get assigned, go through and read something and be prepared. It might make you think of some questions. If you're not familiar with the field so much, you're saying, I'm going to go ahead and sign up to judge brewing and venting because I enjoy drinking the beers, but I don't so much judge. You can get an idea of maybe I need to do a little research, maybe ask some questions. But that is that entire process. Now that we are in the fair season, please go out, go register. The staff of the fairs will be very glad to have you. I'm sure your entrants will enjoy your commentary and feedback, and it will be a fantastic experience. I'm known for being kind of a glass geek. I can tell you that last year I judged an enamel entry. I knew nothing about enameling, and it was fascinating. I still have this person's documentation because she said we could keep our copies on my shelf with all my other glass notes. Because it was just so cool to see how that was actually done. I learned so much about glass blowing. I have done some glass blowing, but I'm certainly not on this particular entrance level. And it was so neat to read some of the medieval techniques, the period techniques for it. So even if it's just a category that you love but you don't do, or that you just have an interest in learning about, you may get a lot of benefit from judging for your own education. So please go out, go register, go judge.